My sister got pregnant by my ex-husband, and my parents told me to come to the baby shower because at least someone in this family could give them a grandchild. I sent one text. It blew their whole world apart. What's going on, everybody? It's Qley. And this one is brutal. A woman's husband has an affair with her younger sister, her own blood, under her own roof. She finds out, divorces him, cuts them both off for 5 years, rebuilds from nothing. And just when she's finally getting her life together, her parents call her up and say, "Hey, your sister is pregnant, we're throwing a baby shower, and you need to come play happy family. Oh, and since you couldn't give us a grandchild, the least you could do is celebrate the one your sister's giving us." Yeah, they said that. To their own daughter. Who was the victim in all of this? What happens next is one of the most satisfying chain reactions I've ever covered on this channel. Smash that subscribe button. Let's get into it. I, 34 female, haven't spoken to my younger sister Gemma or my ex-husband Nolan in 5 years. And until about 3 weeks ago, I was completely fine with that. More than fine. I'd built a whole life around that silence. A career I was proud of. An apartment that was mine. A version of myself that didn't wake up every morning feeling like the floor had been ripped out from under her. It took a long time to get here, and I had zero intention of going backward, for anyone. But then my parents decided to test that. Let me back up though, because none of this hits right without the full picture. Gemma is 9 years younger than me. Same parents, same house growing up, same Sunday dinners around the kitchen table in Idaho where my mom made the same lasagna every single week and nobody ever complained because it was actually good. I was the older sister, the responsible one. Got good grades, stayed out of trouble, moved out to the city for work right after college and never looked back. Got a position as a logistics coordinator at a shipping company. Not glamorous at all, but it paid well and I was good at it. The kind of job where you're not saving the world, but you're building something solid, and you can actually see a future from where you're standing. When Gemma was old enough for college, my parents asked if she could come out to the city since I was already settled. She was only 18, and they were nervous about sending her so far from home. I told them don't worry about it. She's my sister. I'll look out for her. I told them she could come over on weekends so she wouldn't be lonely, that I'd make sure she was eating real food, and not just campus dining hall garbage 7 days a week. And I meant every single word of that. Most of the time, Gemma stayed on campus doing her thing, but she'd come by every couple weekends. I'd cook something decent, we'd watch movies on the couch, just hang out. I gave her money whenever she ran through whatever our parents sent. Helped her pick classes one semester when she was stressing about her schedule. Drove to her dorm at 1 in the morning once because she was having a panic attack about a midterm and couldn't calm down over the phone. I didn't think twice about any of it. That's what big sisters do. You take care of your people. I should mention, Gemma had this habit of showing up to my apartment with her entire friend group unannounced and raiding my pantry like it was a free buffet. One Saturday, they went through a full box of cereal, a jar of peanut butter, an entire sleeve of crackers, and somehow also finished my shampoo. I came home to crumbs on the couch and a sticky note on the fridge that said, "Thanks, sis. Love you." I wasn't even mad. That was just Gemma. She was like a tornado with good intention. Nolan was a different story entirely. He was a co-worker at the first company I joined out here, worked in the operations department 1 floor down. We became friends fast because I was brand new to the city and didn't know a single person, and he had this easy way about him that made everything feel less overwhelming. He showed me around town, introduced me to his friend group, helped me figure out which neighborhoods were safe and which ones you didn't park your car in after dark. Within 6 months, we were dating. 2 years later, we got married. Small ceremony. His parents, my parents, a few friends, backyard setup with folding chairs and a speaker playing a playlist I made on my phone. Nothing fancy, but it felt exactly right. Like this was where my life was supposed to go. I loved him. I mean, I genuinely loved that man with everything I had. The kind of love where you're planning 5 and 10 years ahead and nothing in those plans makes sense without the other person. We talked about kids constantly. Both wanted them badly. Started trying about a year before everything fell apart. Month after month, nothing happened. We went to doctors, did every test they recommended, got a lot of, sometimes it takes time and try to reduce stress, which might be the single most useless medical advice anyone has ever received in the history of medicine. It was frustrating, but I figured we'd get there eventually. We were still young. We had time, right? I traveled a lot for work back then. 3, sometimes 4 days gone. Warehouse inspections, loading dock audits in different states, stuff that required me physically being there to sign off. It was tiring, but it was part of the gig, and Nolan understood. He was home alone a lot during those stretches. Gemma would come by sometimes, bring food, watch TV, keep him company. I remember thinking that was sweet. She liked hanging out with him because he was funny and easy to talk to, and he liked having someone around so the house wasn't dead quiet every night. Normal family stuff. Harmless. I was so wrong. Hold on. Let me flag something real quick because it's important. Her sister is 9 years younger. 9. That's not two women the same age going after the same guy. This is a teenager, barely an adult, that the OP personally looked after, fed on weekends, gave money to, drove to campus in the middle of the night to comfort during a panic attack. And the husband OP trusted with her entire life? He's home while she's out traveling for work, earning the money that pays the mortgage, and he's using that time with her little sister, under their roof, in their house, while she's gone keeping the lights on. The betrayal here isn't just personal, it's structural. Every piece of trust this woman built her life on got turned into a weapon against her. Okay, back to it. I found out on a Wednesday. Wait, actually no. I think it was Thursday. Whatever, the day doesn't matter. What matters is, I was supposed to be gone until Friday, but the site inspection got canceled early. Something about permits not being filed correctly at the warehouse. Point is, I came home 2 days early. Didn't text ahead because I wanted to surprise Nolan. Stopped at that grocery store near our house and grabbed stuff to make dinner. The one with the weird automatic doors that only open halfway, and you have to kind of shimmy through sideways. It's been like that for years and they've never fixed it. Walked in the front door. Heard sounds coming from down the hallway that I should not have been hearing in my own house. Found them in the bedroom, my husband, and my little sister, in my bed. I'm not going to describe what I saw because I don't need to, and I genuinely don't want to relive it. The grocery bags ended up on the kitchen floor. I remember that detail for some reason, stepping over a bag of pasta and a carton of eggs later that night, and thinking about how stupid and normal those groceries looked, sitting there on the tile, while my entire life was collapsing 10 feet away. The next few hours are mostly a blur. Yelling. A lot of crying. Nolan trying to explain. Explain what exactly? What combination of words in the English language makes that make sense? Gemma sitting on the edge of my bed, looking at her hands like a kid who got caught doing something she knew was wrong, which is exactly what she was, except what she did wasn't steal from the cookie jar. It was steal my husband. I told them both to get out. Nolan kept saying it was a mistake, that it only happened a few times, that he loved me. I remember standing in the hallway looking at him and thinking, you love me, and this is what your love looks like? This is what I get for trusting you? Gemma didn't say much, just whispered, I'm sorry, on her way out the door without making eye contact. 5 years later, and I can still hear her voice saying it. That tiny little I'm sorry like she'd bumped into me in a hallway. Like she hadn't just detonated a bomb in the middle of my entire life. I filed for divorce the following week. Took a couple months to finalize. During that time, I was basically a ghost moving through my own life. Went to work. Came home. Sat in the living room staring at the wall where our wedding photo used to hang. I'd taken it down the night I found them and shoved it face down in a closet behind a stack of old boxes. It's probably still there. Haven't opened that closet since. Didn't eat right. Barely slept. Lost about 10 pounds without trying, which people at work noticed. But nobody mentioned because I think my face was doing all the talking for me, and nobody wanted to be the person who made me say it out loud. There was this woman in my department, Gloria, older lady who'd been at the company forever. She didn't ask what happened. She just started leaving a granola bar on my desk every single morning. Didn't say a word about it. Just a granola bar. Every day. For about a month straight. Oats and honey flavor. I never properly thanked her for it, and I still feel weird about that. But it was the kindest thing anyone did for me during those weeks, and she might not even realize it. My parents were supportive at first. Genuinely supportive. They were furious with Gemma. Cut her off financially for a stretch, which matters a lot when you're a college kid depending on family money to survive. My mom called me crying, saying she couldn't believe her own daughter would do this. My dad just kept repeating, I'm so sorry, sweetheart, in this quiet voice that told me he didn't have any other words to offer. I appreciated both of those reactions more than they'll ever know. They kept me from completely falling apart during the worst months when I'd come home from work and sit in the dark for an hour before remembering to turn the lights on. But then time passed. And time has this way of softening the edges of things that should stay sharp. Gemma graduated college. She and Nolan stayed together, which was a gut punch I wasn't ready for. I genuinely assumed they'd crash and burn within a few months, because relationships built on that kind of foundation usually collapse under their own weight. But they didn't. They moved back to Idaho, got a place near my parents, started coming around to family events like nothing had happened. And slowly, real slowly, like water wearing down a stone, my parents let them back in. They explained it to me carefully over the phone one evening. said they couldn't cut off their own daughter forever, that they loved all their kids no matter what, that they weren't choosing sides, they were just trying to keep the family together in the broken shape it was in now. I told them I understood. I didn't understand at all, not even a little bit. But what was I going to say? I'd already lost my husband and my sister. I wasn't willing to lose my parents too, so I swallowed it. Added it to the pile of things I'd been swallowing for months that was slowly turning into years. Gemma and Nolan got married about 2 years after my divorce. My parents went to the wedding. Didn't mention it to me beforehand, which I think was their way of not making me say the words, "I don't want to know about it," out loud. I found out weeks later through a cousin's social media post. A photo of Nolan in a dark suit standing next to Gemma in a white dress under some garden arch with flowers draped over it. My parents in the background, smiling. My mom had on that blue blouse she wears to nice events. She looked happy, genuinely, warmly happy, for the daughter who wrecked her other daughter's life. I stared at that photo on my phone for a long time. Zoomed in, zoomed out, stared some more. Then I closed the app, put on my running shoes, ran until my lungs burned and my legs felt like they were filling up with wet sand. Came home, stood in the shower for 40 minutes not really thinking about anything specific, just letting the water hit my face. Never mentioned the photo to anyone. Not my friends, not my parents, nobody. Filed it away in the part of my brain where I keep things I can't delete but refuse to look at. For 5 years, that was the arrangement. I'd visit my parents in Idaho a couple times a year, maybe Thanksgiving, maybe a weekend in summer when work was slow. Gemma and Nolan were never there when I came. My parents coordinated the schedules carefully to make sure there was no overlap. Their names didn't come up in conversation. It was this unspoken rule that as long as nobody acknowledged what had happened, the room could still hold together. Not comfortable by any stretch, but functional enough to keep me going. I built an entirely new life during those years. Got promoted at work, first to senior coordinator, then to regional logistics manager. More responsibility, better money, an actual reason to get out of bed that wasn't just inertia. Started running every morning before work, rain or shine. Joined a weekend hiking group I found through a community board online. Bunch of women in their late 20s and 30s who were all slightly too competitive about pace times. But that was what made it fun. There was this one woman, Patty, who brought a full hydration vest and trekking poles on a 3-mile trail like she was training for some expedition documentary. She was 5'2". She took the whole thing incredibly seriously. Everyone loved her for it. Those people didn't know anything about my history, and I preferred it that way. To them, I was just the logistics manager who showed up early, never complained about steep inclines, and always had an extra granola bar in her backpack because Gloria from work had trained me to always carry one. Dated a couple people during those 5 years. Nothing that lasted. One guy I saw for about 4 months, a loan officer named Grant, but I couldn't let him all the way in no matter how much I wanted to. He noticed. Was kind about it when he ended things. Said I was great, but it felt like I was always keeping something behind a locked door. He wasn't wrong. I was. I just didn't know the combination to open it myself anymore. But I was okay. Moving forward. Not happy in any big dramatic way, but stable and steady and functional. And after everything I'd been through, stable felt like winning. Can we just sit with something for a second? 5 years this woman held it together. 5 years of going to work, hitting the gym, being a functioning adult while carrying the knowledge that her baby sister married the man who was supposed to be hers. And her parents had both of them over for holiday dinners. 5 years of eating that silence without saying a word because she was too proud to be the woman everyone felt sorry for. That kind of quiet discipline doesn't get enough credit because it doesn't look dramatic from the outside. It just looks like someone living their life. But underneath that, that's a person holding up a collapsing building with their bare hands every morning and smiling like everything's fine because the alternative is worse, and her parents are about to try to knock the whole thing down. Over a baby shower? Keep going. 3 weeks ago, my parents called. Normal check-in at first. How's work? You eating okay? Weather's been strange this year. The usual background noise conversation you have with your parents when you're an adult and love them, but don't have much new to report. Then my mom's voice shifted. Got that careful tone she uses right before she says something she already knows I won't like. So, she said, we have some news. Gemma is pregnant. Long silence. I could hear their TV in the background. Some game show with the audience clapping. She continued, they're having a little get-together to celebrate. Just family, and we really think you should come. I sat on my couch holding the phone, feeling this ringing in my ears. A get-together. To celebrate my sister's pregnancy with my ex-husband. You want me to come to their baby shower. It's not really a baby shower, more like a family gathering, and we think it would mean so much if you were there. It's been 5 years. Maybe this could be a fresh start. A fresh start. My sister sleeps with my husband in my bed. marries him, moves home, and now I'm supposed to show up with a card and smile because they're having a baby together. That's not a fresh start. That's me performing forgiveness so everyone else can feel comfortable at a party. My dad got on the line. Sweetheart, we know this is hard, but Nolan is family now, whether any of us planned it. And this baby is going to be our first grandchild. We'd really like everyone there. I told them no, firm but calm. Said I appreciated the thought, but there was no version of reality where I was attending. I told them they had to understand why. That it wasn't about being petty, it was about self-respect, about not sitting in a room full of people celebrating the relationship that grew out of the wreckage of mine. And then my mom said the thing that broke something inside me. We just think you could make an effort, especially since it doesn't look like we're going to get a grandchild from you anytime soon. Dead silence. The game show audience was still clapping on their TV. It sounded insane. She stumbled, trying to walk it back. I didn't mean it like that. I just mean, Gemma is giving us our first grandchild, and we want everyone there. That's all. I hung up. No goodbye. Just pressed the red button and watched my phone screen go dark. Because here's what she was referencing, and she knew exactly what she was doing. Nolan and I couldn't conceive when we were married. Tried for a full year. Doctor's appointments, timing everything, following every piece of advice the internet had to offer. Nothing. After the divorce, I'd started looking into having a child on my own through IVF with anonymous donors. 3 rounds, expensive, emotionally exhausting. Each one felt like putting your entire heart on a table and watching someone roll dice over it. None of them worked. Doctors couldn't explain why. My parents knew all of this because I'd told them during a visit last year. One of those late-night kitchen table conversations where you're sitting with cold coffee saying more than you plan to. I trusted them with that. And now my mother was using my inability to have a child as a reason I should show up and celebrate the woman who destroyed my marriage having a baby with the man who helped her do it. I blocked both their numbers. Then, because I was angry in a way I hadn't felt in years, this deep burning thing that starts in your chest and climbs straight up into your throat, I did something impulsive. I unblocked Nolan's number. Wasn't even sure it was still the same one after 5 years. And I sent him a text. One text. Something along the lines of, "Congratulations on taking everything that was supposed to be mine. I hope you and Gemma feel every bit as miserable as you've made me for the past 5 years. I don't forgive either of you, and I never will." Sent it. Put the phone face down on the coffee table. Stared at the ceiling fan going around and around. Felt the adrenaline drain out of me like someone had pulled a plug at the bottom of a bathtub. And then I felt lighter. Not because the text was smart. It wasn't smart. Wasn't mature or strategic or anything a level-headed person would recommend. But for 5 years, I'd been dignified. 5 years of quiet. Swallowing every ugly thing I wanted to scream and smiling through phone calls and visits and pretending I was fine, when I was so far from fine, it wasn't even in the same zip code. And for one single moment, I let myself not be okay. Let the anger out instead of forcing it back down into whatever dark drawer it normally lived in. And it felt like exhaling after holding your breath for 5 straight years. Like my lungs had forgotten what a full breath even felt like until that exact second. Reblocked his number right after. Didn't expect a reply. Didn't want one. Just needed it to be said. Once. Into the universe where they could read it and sit with it. All right, stop. Some people are going to say, she shouldn't have sent that text. It was petty. It was emotional. She should have stayed the bigger person. And yeah, it was emotional. No question. But answer me this. If someone stole your husband, your own sister helped them do it. Your parents invited you to celebrate it. And your own mother threw your fertility struggles in your face as a guilt trip to get you through the door. How long would you stay dignified? 5 years? 5 days? 5 minutes? This woman held it together longer than most people could hold a plank at the gym. One angry text after half a decade of total silence isn't petty. It's human. And the fact that she only sent one is honestly the most impressive part of this entire story. Most people would have written a 10-paragraph essay and CC'd the entire family. She sent 4 sentences and put the phone down. That's restraint. That's discipline, even in anger. Back to it. A week went by. Nothing happened. No calls since I'd blocked my parents. No family drama blowing up my phone from other relatives. I figured Nolan read the message, maybe showed it to Gemma, maybe forwarded the whole thing to my parents, and everyone collectively decided to leave me alone. Perfect. That was exactly what I wanted. Went back to my routine. Work, running, home, sleep. Monday through Friday like clockwork. Started feeling something close to normal again. Whatever normal even means at this point in my life. Then, Nolan started texting me from a different number. First message. We need to talk. Please. I almost blocked it immediately, but curiosity grabbed me before common sense could intervene. I didn't respond. More texts came over the next couple days. He needed to see me, had something important to say, wanted to meet in person. Could I please just give him 30 minutes? I read every single one of them and responded to exactly zero. Blocked him again after 2 days when the messages started sounding desperate in a way that made my skin crawl. I figured that was the end of it. It wasn't. A Tuesday morning, getting ready for work, coffee sitting on the counter already going cold because I always make it too early, and then get distracted doing other things and forget about it until it's room temperature. Putting on my jacket by the front door, doorbell rings. I look through the peephole. My stomach drops through the floor. Nolan, standing on my porch, same house, same neighborhood. I never moved because it's close to work, and the neighborhood is decent, and I absolutely refuse to let him take that from me too. He's standing there looking like he hasn't slept in a week, eyes red and swollen. Stubble he normally would have shaved days ago. Jacket wrinkled like he'd slept in it or driven through the night or both. Just standing there on my porch steps with his hands in his pockets, staring at the doorbell like it took everything he had to press it. I opened the door. I still don't fully know why. Maybe I needed to hear whatever he was planning to say. Maybe some part of me, a part I don't particularly like, needed to look him in the face one more time and confirm that what I felt was nothing. That whatever spell he used to have over me was genuinely, completely gone. He didn't say a word, just stepped forward and hugged me, arms around me, face pressed against my shoulder, crying before I could even process what was happening. No hello, no can I come in, no explanation. Just full contact, sobbing before I had the door all the way open. I did not hug him back. I stood there with my arms at my sides, feeling like someone had completely disconnected me from my own body. Like I was watching this happen to someone else from across the room. After about a minute, he pulled himself together, barely, and walked past me into the living room, like he still had a key to the place. Sat on the couch, same spot he always sat in, same corner, same cushion. And that detail, him sitting there like the last 5 years had been erased, made something in my stomach turn over in a way I wasn't prepared for. He started talking, fast, messy, like he was afraid I'd stop him. Said he'd read my text and it destroyed him. That he'd been carrying guilt for 5 years, but convinced himself it was too late to undo any of it, so he just kept going with Gemma. Said their marriage was falling apart, that Gemma was unhappy, that he was distant, that when she told him she was pregnant, he just sat there and said, okay, and walked into the other room without hugging her or asking how she felt. Just, okay. Sound familiar? That flatline okay energy is the same vibe as the guy in that story whose girlfriend asked him to move out so her ex could take his room. Different story, same dead inside response. Anyway, he told me he'd come here not just to talk, but because he wanted another chance. With me. Said marrying Gemma was the worst decision he'd ever made, and he'd known it from day one. That the pregnancy made everything worse, because now he was trapped with someone he didn't actually want. That my text had confirmed for him what he'd been feeling for 5 years. That I was the one, and he'd thrown it all away. I sat in the chair across from him, the old armchair I'd bought at a furniture outlet years ago, the one he always said looked like something from a dentist's waiting room, and I let him finish. Every word. Then I looked at him and said, you drove all the way here, while your wife is pregnant with your baby, to ask me to take you back. He nodded. No. His face collapsed. He started bargaining. We had history. People forgive worse. He'd do anything. Time, space, whatever I needed. Nolan, I got over you the day I caught you with Gemma. Everything after that was paperwork and grieving and learning how to be alone in a house that used to have 2 people in it. What you're doing right now isn't love. It's panic. Your marriage is crumbling, and instead of facing that, you drove here to see if the backup plan was still available. He was crying at this point. Hard. I'm not your backup plan. I haven't been for 5 years. And I'm not starting now. You need to leave. I walked to the front door and held it open. He sat there for another minute, maybe hoping I'd take it back, maybe just trying to pull himself together enough to stand. The whole time I'm at the door feeling this weird mix of pity and anger and something close to relief. Pity because he was genuinely falling apart. Anger because he had the nerve to show up and ask for a do-over, like what he did was some kind of scheduling error we could work past. And relief because for the first time in 5 years, the things I'd been carrying in my chest were coming out clean and calm, and I wasn't stumbling over a single word. They'd been waiting in line for this exact moment, and they knew exactly where to go. He finally stood up, walked to the door, stopped right in front of me, and asked in this small, broken voice if I was going to tell anyone he came. Yeah, I said. I am. Because my parents need to see what they were actually celebrating with that baby shower. He left. I watched his car pull out and disappear around the corner. The neighbor across the street, older guy named Ray, who's always out watering plants at weird hours, waved at me. I waved back, went inside, pulled up the security camera app on my phone, had cameras installed 2 years ago after a package got stolen off the porch. Some random guy in a gray hoodie just grabbed it and walked off. Totally unrelated to any of this. But the front porch camera caught everything from that morning. Nolan arriving, walking up the steps, me opening the door, him walking in, him leaving an hour later looking wrecked, timestamps, crystal clear footage. I unblocked my parents, sent them the clips along with a message explaining everything, what he said, that he came wanting to reconcile, that I turned him down flat, that nothing physical happened, zero, because I knew that'd be their first assumption. I told them everything he said about Gemma, about the marriage falling apart, about his reaction to the pregnancy. Then I added one line at the bottom. Maybe before you invite me to celebrate their marriage, take a closer look at whether it's actually worth celebrating. I knew what I was doing. I knew it would blow things up, and I did not care. For 5 years, I'd protected everyone else's comfort at the expense of my own sanity. Been quiet so my parents could play happy family. Been dignified so nobody at a gathering ever had to feel awkward. And what did that silence earn me? A baby shower invitation and my own mother using my fertility struggles as a guilt trip. Done. I was absolutely done being the person who absorbed everyone else's chaos so they could pretend none of it existed. I'm not gonna lie, the security camera move is chef's kiss because it removes every possible she said he said angle and replaces it with time-stamped footage and facts. She didn't accuse anyone. She didn't start drama. She presented evidence and let it speak for itself. And the best part? She didn't go looking for this. H.E. came to H.E.R. He rang H.E.R. doorbell, walked into H.E.R. house, sat on H.E.R. couch, and begged H.E.R. to take him back. All she did was open the door and let karma walk in on its own 2 legs. Sometimes the universe just delivers the evidence. You just gotta have the cameras rolling. Let's finish this. My parents called 2 days later. I'd unblocked them that morning because I knew the call was coming, and I wanted to hear it with my own ears. My mom's voice was different, smaller, stripped of all that careful diplomatic cushioning she'd been wrapping her words in for 5 years. She told me they'd watched the footage, watched it twice, she said, and then sat in silence for a long time before calling Nolan. Then they confronted him. I don't know the exact details of that conversation, and honestly, I didn't ask because I didn't need to. The result said everything. Gemma filed for divorce within days. Apparently, things between them had been deteriorating for months before any of this happened, and Nolan showing up at my door was just the final crack in a dam that was already leaking from a dozen different places. My dad got on the phone, cleared his throat. I could tell he'd been rehearsing whatever he was about to say, and still wasn't sure he had the words right. "We owe you an apology," he said, "for the shower invitation, for what your mother said on the phone about the grandchild thing, for all of it." Long pause. I could hear him breathing, could hear my mom in the background blowing her nose. We spent 5 years trying to keep everybody happy, and all we actually did was hurt the one person in this family who never did a single thing wrong. I didn't respond for a while. Just sat there in my kitchen, holding the phone against my ear, looking out the window at the backyard. The same backyard where Nolan and I used to sit on summer evenings, talking about what we'd name our kids. Finally, I said thank you, and I meant it. It didn't fix everything. 5 years of damage doesn't disappear because somebody says the right words once. But hearing my dad say it out loud, hearing his voice crack on the word wrong, that mattered. More than I thought it would. Gemma tried to reach me once after that. One text. "I know I destroyed everything. I'm sorry. I hope someday we can talk." I read it. Read it again. Didn't respond. I don't know if that day will ever come. Maybe. Definitely not anytime soon. But I'm not slamming doors and I'm not opening them either. That's her thread to pull when she's ready, and I'm not holding my breath. As of right now, I'm sitting at my kitchen table. Saturday morning. Coffee that's actually still warm for once because I set a timer on my phone to remind me to drink it before it goes cold, which is a ridiculous thing to have to do. But here we are. House is quiet except for Ray's sprinkler going across the street. That man waters his lawn like it owes him money. But the house feels different now. Lighter. Like something that had been pressing against the walls from the inside for years, finally got released. And now there's space to breathe in rooms that used to feel suffocating. I'm still pursuing the IVF route. Still hopeful even though it hasn't worked out yet. Still want to be a mom someday. And that hasn't changed and it's not going to. No matter what anyone else in this family does or doesn't do. I've got a new doctor now who seems more optimistic than the last one. And I'm trying to let myself believe her without getting too attached to the outcome. One day at a time. My parents and I are talking again. Carefully, though. Slowly. Like two people testing whether a bridge they watched crack is strong enough to hold weight again. My mom sends me photos of her garden now. Tomatoes mostly. Sometimes flowers, which is her way of saying she's thinking about me without having to say the hard stuff out loud. My dad calls Sunday evenings and we talk about work, the weather, whatever game was on that week. Safe topics, easy territory. It's not what our relationship used to be. Might never be again. But at least it's honest now, which is more than I can say about the last 5 years of careful silence and coordinated schedules and pretending everything was fine when nothing was. 5 years ago, my sister and my husband blew up my entire life and walked away together like it was nothing. 3 weeks ago, my parents tried to make me celebrate it. One angry text and a security camera later, the truth came out on its own. I didn't scheme. I didn't plot revenge. I didn't even raise my voice. I just stopped protecting people who never once protected me. And that was enough. And that's where she leaves it. So here's what I want to know. Should she ever talk to Gemma again? Is that something you come back from with a sister? And the parents? Do they get a pass for finally apologizing, or is 5 years too late? Drop it in the comments. Hit subscribe if this one hit different. This has been Qley. Peace. Share.